Hi everyone, Harry here to talk about the oral argument in a very closely watched case which pro-choice abortion advocates fear could result in the suspension and injunction of mifepristone, one of the two drugs that are used in the most common form of abortions in the country. Over 50% use this two pill medication, of which mifepristone is one. All right, gets pretty complicated legally, and the headlines seem to suggest that it's clear that Judge Kacsmaryk is ready to shut it down nationwide. There are two big aspects that are controversial in the law here. One is the actual arguments that the plaintiffs are making in order to try to get the FDA's decision to approve mifepristone reversed. But then this other feature, it really is independent of the legal points that an injunction here could affect the entire country. That in and of itself is funky, worrisome, especially when combined with some very obvious forum shopping that occurred here, because Judge Kacsmaryk is a well-known Roe versus Wade opponent, a anti-choice figure in his policy views, and he was the only judge that was available in this district where the plaintiffs very purposely filed suits. So you have what looks like not even-handed justice, where you can go to a hand-picked judge, serve up a claim, and maybe have it applied to the whole country. That's just a more general problem that Congress is going to have to focus on, the ability to do these nationwide injunctions. Okay, but as for the case itself, the headlines are pretty suggestive that he seemed inclined to grant the injunction. I'm not sure that's true. The questioning was very sort of sober and lawyerly, starting with good old standing, a concept that used to be only for lawyers, but now everyone on Talking Feds has been learning. Did the plaintiffs are they actually injured? And the Department of Justice, which is fighting this one hard, I'll explain a little bit more in a bit, says, look, with these guys, these are doctors who are saying some women took mifepristone and experienced some bad side effects, and we had to treat them. And the Department of Justice is saying that's not good enough under the Supreme Court's law to show an injury to yourself. It's too attenuated, the lawyers would say. So that's a pretty big part of it. And then second, before we get to the legal claims, is this idea of a nationwide injunction, which he seemed to be sensitive to. He, asked, there's a brief that the 22 most conservative states had filed in support, and he asked the Department of Justice about that, and the attorney said, look, this isn't just about the 22. This is about all 50. There's 22 and 28, and he questioned the other side and seemed at least attuned to that concern. In the good old days, we thought of judicial conservatives as being, on the one hand, maybe having certain views on, say, abortion jurisprudence, but being very serious about limits on judicial power and standing. Maybe he's an old-fashioned conservative for whom this matters. And he has the option, does Kacsmaryk, of not granting the injunction, but proceeding to a trial on the legal issue. So, if he's really concerned about that kind of sweep of power, maybe he does that. At least from the questioning, it didn't seem to me clear that it was just going to be a total slam dunk for the anti-choice side, but this is just from snippets in the paper. Okay, now let's get to the merits, because this is it's important to understand what's going on here and why the DOJ is fighting so hard. It isn't really even an abortion case in which a state is saying we want to be able to restrict women's ability to get abortions, and others are contesting it. This is saying the FDA, which approves drugs for nationwide use after very thorough investigation, didn't follow its own procedures, and therefore the approval of the drug was flawed. And why is that? Well, the first point is that the authority that the FDA invoked has to do with drugs that treat illnesses and diseases, and the challengers say, well, that's not, whether you conceptualize it as pregnancy or as abortion, that's not an illness. So there's a lot of back and forth in the oral argument about the Department of Justice attorney said, no, of course it's illness, as it was used then, back on with dictionaries, saying because, pregnancy can have complications, as can abortion. It's perfectly front and center. But this is the federal government, FDA, saying we're the ones who have to and have the authority to regulate what drugs are used, and you can't try to erase that or erode that. It's that kind of thing. And they've previously opined that women can actually get drugs through the mail, and the states are not able to stop them. Now, of course, states, if you receive these drugs in a state that prohibits abortion and that's their use, all right, they could try to come after you, make it a crime, etc. And that's its own kind of big hornet's nest of a problem. Of course, once you have these drugs in hand, I think a lot of people will be able to go ahead and take them undetected. But the main point for this current issue is this is about the availability of a drug and that is incidentally used for abortion, and it's the politics and law, etc., of abortion are what animate it, but are not what the legal claim is. Okay, so everyone's watching this super closely. Kacsmaryk said he would decide very quickly whether he would enter an injunction. He seems to be aware of the gravity of doing it. That doesn't mean he won't. And as people in the pro-choice community have pointed out, the appellate routes here are about as conservative as they get, up to the Fifth Circuit and from there to the Supreme Court. So thus, the fear of so many advocates that this is actually going to shut things down. And if the FDA is found to have not gone through the right process and has to start all over again with a different kind of rationale and the like, that's going to mean that mifepristone is just not available for quite some time. So it is a very worrisome possibility when combined with the separately problematic prospect of a nationwide injunction by this one hand-picked judge in, I think it's Amarillo, Texas. So we're going to be hearing soon whether he'll enter a nationwide injunction and how the United States will respond if he does. Surely they'll take an appeal, but there is, again, the option of not entering the injunction and yet going ahead with the trial, and that's something we should also keep our eyes open for. So lots happening here and in short order, and that means I'll be talking to you later. Until then, have a good one. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.